When we see the Rwanda's genocide, that is a painful experience, not only for Rwandans, this is also for all Africans and for the whole nation. We have to learn with this painful experience to not repeat such kind of genocide and killing human beings. The Bible and the church always focusing on peace. To be a peaceful nation, our leaders has to sit and take on their issues discussion and also again and again discussion. We encourage as a church, especially the gospel believer church, we are standing for peace. We are working for peace. The peace of the Lord be upon with us. May God bless our nation in the name of the Almighty God. Amen.
Thank you very much. Amen. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great honor to invite His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, along with all our distinguished leadership at the high table, to lead us in lighting the flame of remembrance for the victims and survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. I kindly ask everyone to please rise and light the candle in your hands in solemn solidarity. There's a candle. Can you please dim the light?
I'm paying a tribute. You left a legacy, and I'm a fruit from the love you saw. Let's say never again to genocide. There should be no war. There should be no genocide. Anyway, then say never again. Never again to genocide. Let's say never again. Never again to genocide.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You may kindly take your seats. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to now call to the podium His Excellency Ambassador Bankole Adeoye, the Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, for his welcome remarks.
Excellencies, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, State Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Ambassador of the Republic of Rwanda, members of the Permanent Representatives Committee of the African Union, and members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished religious leaders, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the chairperson of the Commission, His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, I welcome you to this solemn commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Today, we join the government and the good people of the Republic of Rwanda and Africa and the rest of the world to honor the over 1 million lives lost during those tragic days in 1994. We stand in full solidarity with the victims and the survivors and all Rwandans across the globe to reaffirm one collective commitment: never again. This year's commemoration, Remember, Unite, and Renew, is a wake-up call to continuously reflect on the dastardly acts of genocide. The ideology of hate should not be in our midst. Excellencies, the genocide against the Tutsis remain one of the most tragic chapters in human history. It's a stark reminder of the destruction, the hatred, the hate speech, division, impunity that comes with this atrocity. Yet, Rwanda has made us proud of remarkable resilience in rebuilding in a just, reconciled, and inclusive society. So Rwanda's journey proves that healing, justice, and unity are possible, even among the ruins. Justice, accountability, and reconciliation have been evident. But commemoration alone, Excellencies, is not sufficient. We must all promote a deeper, sustained process of preserving memory within our public consciousness and institutional frameworks, with the aim of fostering reconciliation in a society that has been fractured by violence, or be it terrorism as we know it today. Excellencies, the African Union Transitional Justice Policy sets out the important standards and principles, and this is why we are here. It is in this context, Excellencies Chairperson, Deputy Chairperson, that I'm pleased to inform of the official launch of the African Union Virtual Human Rights Memorial, featuring what we call the E-Room on the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. The other E-Rooms on the Red Terror in Ethiopia, apartheid in South Africa, colonialism, and the transatlantic slave trade will be developed in due course. We acknowledge the support of the United Nations Office to the African Union for its partnership in operationalizing this virtual human rights memorial. This morning, the chairperson also laid a wreath along with distinguished leaders at the actual physical human rights memorial just across the African Union. As we commemorate this day, let us not forget our youth. Let's empower our youth for now and the next generation to protect and preserve peace in our societies. May we always remember, may we always unite, may we always renew our commitment to peace and stability in our beautiful continent. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your technical guidance and leadership. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, unlike the other genocide that unfolded for years, the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda was unique in the sense that it was carried out in just 3 months and few days. Killings were documented to have been conducted with machetes and crude weapons, leading to horrific acts of mass rape, mutilation, and torture before victims were massacred. Please relax as we watch together a documentary movies on the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda.
This is Rwanda today, a country transformed over the past 30 years. This new Rwanda has been forged out of the ashes of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, an event that shocked the world.
Dim the lights.
Our story offers a warning of what can happen when political leaders preach division and hatred triumphs over humanity. But it also tells us what can be achieved when a determined people fight together for unity and reconciliation. This new Rwanda has been forged out of the ashes of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, an event that shocked the world. Our story offers a warning of what can happen when political leaders preach division and hatred triumphs over humanity. But it also tells us what can be achieved when a determined people fight together. This is our journey, told by those who have traveled together as we have moved from despair to hope. For much of the world, Rwanda first existed in 1994. And yet, our story starts long before this. Before colonialism, Rwandans had a rich culture, one language, and the people were united around their own organic form of governance. This all changed when colonial powers chose to control Rwandans by ethnicity, creating division and conflict where none had existed previously. This division grew into hatred and violence, culminating in the genocide against the Tutsi, where over 1 million people were murdered in 100 days.
Ukabona interahamwe zirirukanka bambaye amashara zaba zifite ubuhiri zifite imipanga mu isoko zibyina nta ukanda burende bahiga abatutsi mbese mu buryo bukomeye.
Maze kubona bikomeye abantu batwika abantu barya inka abantu batemagurana za bariyeri bazishyizeho yewe n'abana na madamu tujya kwa databukwe bari bafite imbaraga nyinshi. Abo bana rero bahamaze iminsi mike, hanyuma musaza wa madamu se wabo ufindimwe na se n'abandi b'abavandimwe babo nibo bafashe iya mbere, nta wundi wivanzemo, babajyana muri Nyabarongo, barabaheka baragenda babata muri Nyabarongo, barangije barataha.
Muri Genocide 94 banyiciye imiryango yanjye mu bana 9 nabyaye, hasigayemo utwana 2. abana ba Mariya babiri n'umugabo wa Mariya abo bose badusanze kuri bariyeri twe turagera kubica.
Abagabo bacu babazamuye mu ngo bababwira ngo tugende tujye kwirinda, ariko bo bazi ikigiye kuvamo. Bahera ku mugabo wanjye kuko bari kuri liste, bahita bamutsinda aho ngaho haruguru y'urugo gatoya, barabarashe, bamurashe amasasu, umwe aravuga ngo n'uyu sha mbaye hanuyu.
This genocide was long planned by the government of the time, who used education and the media to divide Rwandans, creating the conditions for the genocide to happen. The preparation of the genocide and of the 100 days of killings happened in full view of the world, who stood by, watched, and did nothing. No one came to Rwanda's rescue. The killings were only stopped when the Rwanda Patriotic Front overthrew the genocidal government. From that moment, Rwandans began the long, hard road to recovery, healing, and reconciliation.
Mu mwaka w'ibihumbi 2004 nibwo nafashe icyemezo cyo gusaba imbabazi Mariya. Mfati umwanzuro numvaga mvuga nti se wenda yaba ntari namusanzeyo kuko numvaga mfite ubwoba. Nkongera nkavuga nti se ubundi amaherezo yazaba yahe. Ngize amahirwe rero ubwo nuvuga ngo Mariya asanze ariyo, nibwo namubwiye nti uko biri kose urabizi njye ndi mu bantu nyine bakwiciye, ariko noneho ndagira ngo umpe imbabazi.
Byagiye bigenda gahoro, uko dusabana, uko duhura, uko tuvugana, uko twigishwa, hace mu nyigisho nyinshi cyane, ntabwo byari byoroshye.
Hari ahantu neza nemereye neza ko imbabazi yazimpaye, narangiye ngira ku isantere ahantu mbambonye Mariya, naramuhamagaye turasangira, mbona aremeye turasangira. Muri njye uwo munsi numvise aribwo nafunguwe, numvise aribwo mvuye muri gereza.
To heal the wounds of a nation where neighbors killed neighbors, and even some family members turned on each other, the new Rwanda had to find a way to deliver justice for the victims, which could manage the scale of the crimes, and could also heal the torn social fabric of our society. So, we turn to our history for the answer. We set up Gacaca tribunals, a traditional form of community justice where citizens elected Inyanga Mugayo, men and women of integrity in their communities, who heard almost 2 million genocide cases. This not only ensured that justice was delivered, but also established the truth of the killings. Reconciliation could begin at last.
Gacaca zimaze kugeramo abaturage tugakorana, bari abafunguye bakaza bagashinjanya, kanaka uwe kanaka twajyanye mu gitero, uwe kanaka twajyanye mu gitero, ngo kuko abakoze jenoside, ngo kuko bagaragaye.
Abenshi rero muri Gacaca byatumye bamenya uko ababo bishwe, barihangana barabyakira, bamenya naho bajuguwe.
We asked that the genocide survivors make huge sacrifices by putting aside their desire for retribution in favor of forgiveness and reconciliation. And we asked all Rwandans to leave the ethnic divisions in the past and embrace a future of Ndumunya Rwanda, where we are all Rwandan.
Nabaga muri CNRD, naje mfite ipeti rya General de Brigade. Kuyo dufata icyemezo tukava muri CNRD tukaza mu Rwanda, nuko twari tumaze kumenya neza ko leta y'u Rwanda ifite gahunda nziza yo kunga abanyarwanda, ikangurira abanyarwanda aho bari hose batahuke mu mahoro, kandi waza ikakwakira neza umunyarwanda, ugatura aho ushaka utuje utekanye nta kibazo gihari. Muri RDF igihe mazemo nabonye nta vangura ribamo, umuntu akora akazi ashinzwe nta kindi.
Rwanda is still a work in progress. It is up to the next generations to learn the true story of our past, to protect against genocide, denial, and hate, and keep the memory and the lessons of our history alive.
En fait, le négationnisme est en pleine expansion sur Internet, sur les réseaux sociaux, sur Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Le discours n'a pas changé. Certaines personnes vont, par exemple, prétendre que Le génocide n'a pas été planifié, mais que les gens se sont mis en colère et ont commencé à tuer. Il faut qu'on soit plus nombreux à protéger la vérité, à protéger l'histoire du génocide contre les Tutsis sur ces plateformes-là.
We have made progress across every sector, creating a secure and ambitious country which offers opportunity and hope to all Rwandans.
byahindutse ni byinshi nyuma ya jenoside yakorewe abatutsi umwana ariga akabona buruse atitawe ngo n'uwo kwande.
Ndi umukobwa ukora mu bijyanye n'ubuvuzi ndetse nkaba ndi no muri siporo kandi byose nkabikora neza. Rero umwana w'umukobwa icyo namubwira ni uko turashoboye muri rusange, ibyo twajyamo byose dushoboye kubikora neza ndetse turanahagarariwe hirya no hino kugeza ku mudugudu, turahagarariwe n'ijwi ryacu rishobora kumvikana.
For our friends around the world, we thank you for continuing to stand with us and ask you to share Rwanda's story and what we've learned about division and reconciliation at a time when the world seems increasingly more fractured. Rwanda's experience is one of unimaginable loss, but it is also the story of a people determined, of resilience, of sacrifice, and of rebirth. Rwanda today is proof that out of the depths of despair can come great hope.
Thank you. Thank you very much for watching. The experience of Rwanda is that of genocide to contemporary socio-economic transformation. May we never experience another genocide again on the planet's Earth and in Africa. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my honor to invite Her Excellency Ambassador Hadira Abira, the State Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, for her remarks.
Your Excellency, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellency Salma Malika Hadadi, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Ambassador Bankole Adair, Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, African Union Commission, Your Excellency Parfit Oganga Anaya, Special Representative of the UN Secretary General and Head of the United Nations Office to the African Union, Your Excellency Ambassador General Charles Karamba, Ambassador of the Republic of Rwanda to Ethiopia and Permanent Representative to the African Union, Excellencies, Ambassadors, Commissioners, religious leaders, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. As we gather today to commemorate the 32nd anniversary of the genocide against the Tutsi under the theme, Kwa Remember, Unite, Renew. We will never forget the scars it left on humanity, particularly on our continent. We are here to honor the lives of nearly 1 million innocent people who perished during that horrific period. On this occasion, I would like to express our solidarity and deepest sympathy to the people and government of Rwanda. We honor the memory of those victims and extend our compassion to the survivors of the genocide. It is essential that we remember the atrocities committed, stand united in the fight against genocide and its ideology, and firmly reject any form of denial. We must reaffirm our commitment to justice, strengthen our resolve against impunity, and renew our collective responsibility to combat genocide, hate speech, and all crimes against humanity. We commend the government of Rwanda for its tireless pursuit of justice through the establishment of robust legal framework and its efforts to ensure accountability for the perpetrators. This pursuit has not only been about legal redress, but also about restoring the dignity of the victims and the sanctity of the human life. Moreover, Rwanda's remarkable recovery in the face of unimaginable tragedy stands as powerful testament to the resilience and the strength of the human spirit. It reminds us that through accountability and unity, a nation can rebuild, heal, and emerge stronger. As we commemorate today, we must renew our commitment to ensuring that such atrocities are never repeated. This is a call to action to promote peace, tolerance, and respect for human rights across our continent. Hate crimes and genocidal ideologies cannot be addressed by national efforts alone. A coordinated continental approach is imperative. To prevent future atrocities, we must strengthen awareness through education systems and media platforms. We must also develop inclusive policies that reflect the diversity of our societies. Furthermore, we must intensify efforts to prevent conflicts across the continent from escalating into mass atrocities, strengthening preventive diplomacy mechanisms such as the Panel of the Wise, the African Standby Force, and the early warning and response systems is critical to our shared goals of silencing the guns. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis unfolded in full view of the international community, an atrocity that could and should have been prevented through timely and decisive actions. This collective failure remains one of the darkest chapters in human history. At the same time, we must recognize the courage and humanity of remarkable individuals, including Rwandans and members of the United Nations Assistance Mission for Rwanda, who risked their lives to protect innocent civilians. Ethiopia takes pride in its modest contribution to this peacekeeping effort. Excellencies, we also acknowledge the significant strides made by the people and government of Rwanda in addressing the root cause of the genocide. Efforts to rebuild national identity and balanced justice, truth, peace, and security have been central to the progress. Initiatives such as laws against discrimination and divisive ideology, as well as establishment of National Unity and Reconciliation Commission, have played a vital role in fostering lasting peace and stability. Today, Rwanda stands as a compelling example of resilience and transformation, rising from the devastation to become a symbol of hope and progress. Excellencies, it is incumbent upon us to promote the responsible use of media, both digital and traditional, as well as emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence. Those tools must serve as instruments for prevention, not division. We must reinforce Africa's institutional and normative frameworks to prevent mass atrocities, combat the risk of hate speech, and strengthen early warning systems. As I conclude, I would like to express our profound appreciation to the African Union for its unwavering leadership in commemorating the genocide each year. This act of remembrance is a vital expression of our collective responsibility to ensure that such tragedies never occur again. Through this commemorations, the African Union continues to promote healing, reconciliation, and unity across the continent. As Ethiopia assumes the chairship of the Peace and Security Council of the African Union for April 2026, it is my honor to announce that the Council will convene an open session tomorrow on the theme Hate, Crime, and Genocide Ideology. Remember, unite, renew. I thank you.
Thank you very much, the representative of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to recognize the presence of Mr. Cliver Gatete, the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. It is now my distinct honor to invite to the podium His Excellency Mr. Parfait Onanga Ayanga, the Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General to the African Union and Head of the UN Office to the African Union, for his statement.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency, Selma Malika Haddadi, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, State Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Federal Republic, Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Ambassador Adera Abera Admasu, Your Excellency, Ambassador Bankole Adeoye, Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency, Major General Retired Charles Karamba, Ambassador of the Republic of Rwanda to the Federal Republic, Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and permanent representative to the African Union, and dear brother, my dear colleague, the Executive Secretary of the ECA, Economic Commission of Africa, my dear Cliver Gatete, the distinguished ambassadors and permanent representatives in the room, distinguished religious leaders present here today, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. As we gather here today on this International Day of Reflection, marking the 32nd anniversary of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, we are called upon not only to honor the memory of those who lost their precious lives, but also to reflect on the enduring lessons of this human tragedy. As Nelson Mandela once reminded us, no one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin, or his background, or his religion. People learn to hate. End of quote. This chilling truth presses upon all of us a profound sense of responsibility to ensure that hatred is neither taught nor tolerated. Today's commemoration also provides a solemn occasion to remind ourselves of our collective failure to recognize the warning signs of the impending genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda and our colossal failure to prevent their premature and inhumane death. Let us remember that genocide and other atrocities do not happen in a vacuum. These crimes tend to develop over a prolonged period that often offers opportunities for early action. It is indeed possible to identify warning signs of impending atrocities, from increased inflammatory rhetoric to propaganda campaigns, incitement or hate speech targeting specific groups, populations, or individuals. Yet, today, regrettably, the risk of recurrence of these horrendous crimes has not diminished. People on our continent and around the world, men, women, children, and the elderly, continue to be abused, displaced, discriminated against, and eventually killed based on their identity. We must make prevention a reality. Building awareness. Young people are not simply the inheritors of memory. They are its custodians, those who carry forward the legacy to the next generations. The digital integration of the African Union Human Rights Memorial Museum e-exhibition, just referred to by Commissioner Bankole, is indeed a highly commendable initiative, a living proof that technology can and must be harnessed as a force for the greater good. It will serve as a powerful tool to contribute to the prevention of genocide and other atrocity crimes by ensuring that the messages of this exhibition endure far into the future. UNOAU stands ready to continue partnering with the AU in this ambitious and noble endeavor. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in closing, allow me to read the brief message of the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, on this solemn commemoration. I quote, 32 years ago, Rwanda endured one of the darkest chapters in human history. In just 100 days, more than 1 million people were murdered, primarily Tutsi, but also Hutu and others who opposed the genocide. Entire families were brutally erased. On the International Day of Reflection on the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, we mourn the victims and honor their stolen dignity. We pay tribute to the survivors whose resilience shows the strength of the human spirit. And we recall with humility and shame the international community's failure to heed warnings and take immediate life-saving action. It is not enough to remember the dead. We must learn from past failures and protect the living. By rejecting hatred, inflammatory rhetoric, and incitement to violence, by investing in the social fabric to deepen community resilience, and by strengthening institutions that help prevent mass atrocities. I call on all countries to become parties to the Genocide Convention without delay and to implement it fully. The United Nations stands with the people of Rwanda, and we stand with all those everywhere who refuse to surrender our future to fear division, or silence. Let this day reaffirm our commitment to remember, to listen, and to act. With history as our guide and the prevention of genocide as our goal, end of quote. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us all remember, let us all unite, and let us renew our commitment to ensuring that never again does not become time and again.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my honor to invite His Excellency Ambassador Charles Karamba, the Ambassador of the Republic of Rwanda to the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and permanent representative to the African Union, to deliver his statement. The podium is yours.
Excellency, the Minister of State of Foreign Affairs of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellency Ambassador Gatete, my brother, Excellency Deputy Chairperson of the African Union, Excellencies, ambassadors, permanent representatives, Excellency commissioners, led by Commissioner Bankole, who is present with us here, Excellency Parfait Onanga, the SRSG and the head of UNOAU, Excellencies, members of the diplomatic corps, religious leaders present here, representatives of civil society, the Rwandan community here present, ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by thanking you all for your presence here and coming here to express solidarity on this commemoration day. Today, April 7, we assemble here on a solemn remembrance of one of the darkest chapters in human history, the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, where 1 million lives were murdered and lost in cold blood. The 32 years have now passed, yet the wounds remain deep and the lessons remain urgent. We remember the families and communities torn apart and destroyed. This day of remembrance is not only about the past, it is also about the present and the future, where we all join hands in confronting the forces that committed such horrors and ensuring that they never prevail again. Indeed, also, it is a moment of humanity to reflect on the consequences of hatred, discrimination, and indifference. We note that genocide did not erupt overnight. It was preceded by decades of discrimination, hate propaganda, and deliberate dehumanization of the Tutsi section of our population. Violence against them became normalized with extremist politicians in the leading role. The culmination was where in just 100 days, over 1 million people were murdered. Its impact was devastating. Our national and economic infrastructure collapsed, children were orphaned, and the impact extended far beyond Rwanda's borders. It shook the world conscience, exposing the catastrophic consequences of silence, of indifference, and delayed action. It remains a stark reminder that the promises of never again must be more than words. It must be a call to vigilance. In the aftermath of genocide, Rwanda faced an unimaginable task. Available choices were few. But first, Rwanda chose the path of unity and reconciliation. The path of healing over endless cycles of hatred. Against all odds, Rwanda worked tirelessly to rebuild the institutions, to restore dignity to our survivors, and to pursue restorative justice against those responsible for the genocide. On the international community, despite having failed to intervene to stop the genocide, nonetheless, the UN General Assembly and the Security Council have since adopted resolutions recognizing and condemning the genocide, affirming the responsibility to protect populations from mass atrocities. The African Union, taking note of the lessons of Rwanda, enshrined in its constitutive act the principle of non-interference, committing itself to act against genocide, against war crimes, and crimes against humanity. These decisions form a very good foundation for collective responsibility and accountability. Building on this normative framework, African institutions, including the AU Peace and Security, have since adopted resolutions or communiques condemning genocide, denial, revisionism, hate speech, and incitement to violence, recognizing that these dangerous narratives threaten peace and can reopen wounds for the survivors. These commitments remind us that preventing genocide is not only a moral duty, it is a legal and political obligation. The principle of responsibility to protect obliges states and the international community to safeguard people from genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, and crimes against humanity. Of concern, however, today, even as we commemorate denial, genocide, distortion, and trivialization persist in some sections of the media, the digital platforms, and even academic spaces. Yet, we all know that denial is not merely a distortion of history, it is a continuation of the crime itself. It insults the memory of the victims, it deepens the wounds of survivors, and fuels the dangerous ideologies that can lead to future atrocities. This day, again, serves as a reminder to all of us that some of the leadership of those who committed genocide remain at large and all over the world, and across our border in some eastern part of DRC, they transformed themselves into a genocide organization, now known as FDLR. It now acts as an ideological center of gravity for the numerous genocidal coalition forces operating in that part of our Great Lakes. Their hate speech and genocide ideology continue to spread and to inflame divisions, specifically targeting native Tutsi communities in that part of our region. We are witnessing the same rhetoric that once paved the way to the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda in 1994. The urge is to speak with one voice. Denial is not an opinion. Rwanda speaks from its painful experiences. We know the cost of ignoring genocide ideology and when it is openly articulated. We know the cost of turning a blind eye to genocidal acts when they are unfolding. The lessons of Rwanda remind us that words can kill, that dehumanization and propaganda can transform neighbors into perpetrators. Hate speech is therefore not free expressions, it is a weapon that must be disarmed. African Union and the international community should firmly condemn any form of tolerance, support, and collaboration with any entity like the FDLR that I just mentioned above, with its propaganda, the hate speech, and the ideology of genocide. Awareness and education must remain at the center of genocide prevention. Commemoration like this should serve future generations to learn the history of the 1994 genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda. This will help in the prevention of similar tragedy in future. As a nation, Rwanda, under the current leadership of His Excellency Paul Kagame, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, the priority now remains unity of our people, development, and, of course, securing our borders to ensure that our people never again suffer from the same horrors of 1994. The way of preventive measure, by way of preventive measure, the African Union Commission can do some work to see how member states and civil society could strengthen laws and mechanisms to combat hate speech and genocide ideology, particularly in the digital sphere, in the social media platforms, academic institutions, to ensure they never become spaces where denial or distortion thrives. Scholars and educators have a responsibility to defend the historical truth. Academic freedom must not be misused to legitimize genocide denial or revisionism. Equally important, the African Union and the United Nations needs to continue to reinforce early warning systems, accountability mechanism, and collective action against mass atrocities. Above all, young people must become the guardians of memory. The message of never again must not remain a slogan. It must become a guiding principle for civic responsibility, ethnic leadership, and solidarity among communities. Furthermore, Excellencies, on accountability, today, the launch of the AU Human Rights Virtual Memorial, starting particularly with the component of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, marks a key milestone for African history, and it sheds light on the preparations and executions of genocide, and the journey to rebuild the country from its ashes. The memorial shows that this genocide was not a spontaneous outburst of violence. It was intentional, premeditated, and carefully orchestrated through a campaign of incitement and hatred. This memorial, therefore, serves the history of genocide and it offers lessons on the need to protect future generations from facing similar atrocities. I therefore want to thank the Office of the UN Secretary General working with the African Union on this step achieved and request that construction of the physical memorial itself be fast-tracked. To conclude, as we mark the 32nd commemoration anniversary, I wish to say that this tragedy teaches us that when discrimination and hatred are allowed to grow unchecked, the consequences can be catastrophic. Let us honor the victims not only through remembrance, but through action. Let us stand firm against genocide denial, against hate speech, and all forms of discrimination in Africa and in the world at large. Let us commit ourselves to building societies where truth prevails over propaganda, where justice triumphs over impunity, and where humanity rejects hatred in all its forms. I thank you once again for your solidarity.
Thank you, Your Excellency, particularly for emphasizing the role of youth in atrocity and genocide prevention. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, intergenerational dialogue, including youth participation and activism in memorialization, is a fundamental factor and a cornerstone principle in transitional justice for preservation of historical knowledge and memory. It is also a durable strategy for preventing future recurrence of human rights violations and atrocities. It is on this note, among others, that I'm inviting you all to relax as we watch together a video of African youth reflection on the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Counting the likeness.
Today, we remember the lives of more than 1 million Tutsi who were brutally killed during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Their memory lives on.
As young Africans, we carry the responsibility to promote unity, dignity, and respect for human life.
Commemoration is not only about remembrance, it is also about learning and preventing.
Kwibuka ni inshingano zanjye nawe. Urubyiruko nitwe imbaraga z'ejo hazaza. Turwanye ingengabitekerezo ya jenoside n'imvugo zihembera urwango.
The memory of the victims call on us to defend humanity and protect human rights.
The memories of the victims calls on us to defend humanity and protect human rights everywhere.
Together, we stand against genocide, ideology and denial, hate speech and division.
Como generación que está dando forma al futuro de África, conmemoramos Kibuka con tristeza y determinación. Juntos, nos levantamos como jóvenes africanos comprometidos con la verdad, la unidad y la prevención del genocidio, hoy y para las generaciones venideras.
We remember the victims, we stand with the survivors, and we work together for a peaceful Africa.
Kwibuka reminds us that silence and indifference must never allow hatred to take root again.
Plus jamais signifie protéger la vie, protéger la dignité et protéger l'humanité.
The theme of the 32nd commemoration, Remember, Unite, Renew, calls on us to reflect on the past, strengthen unity, and renew our commitment to peace, justice, and human dignity.
Kibuka
nos lembra que o silêncio, a indiferença podem ter consequências devastadoras. Como jovens africanos, recusamos-nos a ser passivos diante ao ódio. O legado da memória está agora em nossas mãos e nós o levaremos com coragem e responsabilidade.
We honor the victims, stand with the survivors, and commit ourselves to a world free from genocide.
Tarehe 7 Aprili ni siku ya kumbukumbu ya Umoja wa Afrika na pia siku ya kimataifa ya tafakari kuhusu mauaji ya kimbari dhidi ya Watutsi ya mwaka 1994.
أن تذكر الماضي لا يقتصر على التاريخ فحسب، بل يتكرر ببناء مستقبل لا تتكرر فيه مثل هذه الفظائع أبدا.
Never again.
Ntibizongera ukundi.
Never again.
Never again.
Never again.
Plus jamais.
Nunca mais.
Never again.
Never again.
Never again.
Kamwe tena.
Twibuke, twiyubaka.
Thank you very much for your patience. There's still a play. Thank you, Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. As the practice, by exactly 12 noon, we are to maintain a 1-minute silence in remembrance of those that were lost during the genocide against the Tutsi. It is now my honor, as the usual practice across board in Rwanda and in other places globally, we should all rise up for 1-minute silence in memory of those that we have lost during the genocide. May the souls of the departed rest in peace, and may the survivor find strength and solace to carry on with their lives as we pray. Thank you very much. Kindly take your seats. Excellencies, distinguished participants, guests, ladies and gentlemen, today we present to you the African Union Virtual Human Rights Memorial, with a specific focus on the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. The plan is to have a physical monument of the African Union Human Rights Memorial within the African Union Commission, where we visited this morning during the Walk to Remember. Upon its completion, the monument, as we have heard from the Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, it will feature 5 major thematic exhibitions, namely the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, the Red Terror in Ethiopia, apartheid in South Africa, colonialism, and finally, the transatlantic slave trade. We want to seize this opportunity to sincerely appreciate the United Nations Office of the African Union for its support and partnership in operationalizing the genocide against the Tutsi era within the AU Virtual Human Rights Memorial platform. We look forward to its continued support and partnership in completing the remaining 4 E-rooms. I now have the privilege and honor to invite you all to the official lounge as we jointly watch together the African Union Virtual Human Rights Memorial. Sorry, Your Excellency is not here. Yeah, it's after. As we watch together the African Union Virtual Human Rights Memorial with a focus on the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, you can also visit the website and rewatch it later through the QR barcode in your hands. Thank you.
Welcome to the African Union Virtual Human Rights Memorial, a groundbreaking initiative commemorating the rich tapestry of human rights struggles and experiences across our continent. The African Union Virtual Human Rights Memorial rises not from stone, but from shared conscience, its roots sunk deep into histories of struggle and its branches extending toward justice, at times yet to be realized. Conceived under the auspices of the African Union, the memorial represents a deliberate act of continental remembrance, transforming digital space into a civic forum for honoring victims of human rights violations across Africa. By leveraging immersive technology, it transcends geographic and political boundaries, offering citizens from Addis Ababa to the farthest diaspora communities an accessible platform to engage with testimonies, archival materials, and educational resources. It reflects past injustices while projecting a normative commitment to dignity, accountability, and governance reform. The virtues of this virtual memorial are both symbolic and operational. It consolidates a Pan-African narrative of resilience, reinforcing the continental human rights architecture embodied in the instruments such as the Constitutive Act and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. In doing so, the memorial affirms that collective memory, when structured with transparency and inclusivity, become a catalyst for reconciliation and sustainable peace, rather than a relic of unresolved grievance. Here stands a symbol of resilience and hope, a testament to the African Union's unwavering commitment to safeguarding human dignity. This monument serves as a beacon guiding us through the corridors of history, where courageous individuals and movements fought for justice, equality, and fundamental human rights. As we step into the virtual lobby, we are welcomed by a rich collection of resources and narratives illuminating the purpose and vision of this memorial. In a world increasingly interconnected through technology, a virtual memorial plays a crucial role for several compelling reasons. A virtual memorial transcends physical boundaries. Whether in bustling city centers or remote villages, access is just a click away. This platform serves as a timeless digital archive, preserving the legacies of activists, movements, and communities for future generations. In doing so, it functions as a pedagogical repository, curating lived experiences to foster intergenerational dialogue and normative literacy regarding rights and responsibilities. Through interactive exhibits and multimedia storytelling, it becomes a powerful educational tool, fostering understanding, empathy, and informed dialogue. A virtual memorial provides space for marginalized perspectives to be heard. Through videos, photographs, testimonies, and historical documents, diverse narratives are elevated and preserved. It becomes a platform for reflection, dialogue, and advocacy, empowering visitors to engage with ongoing human rights challenges and mobilize for change. In essence, the African Union Virtual Human Rights Memorial harnesses the power of technology to transcend limitation and inspire meaningful action. It invites us not only to remember the past, but to actively engage with the present and shape the future of human rights across Africa and beyond. One of the most poignant exhibitions within this memorial is dedicated to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, a nation that endured profound tragedy, yet emerged with resilience, unity, and determination. Through powerful narratives and compelling visuals, we witness the triumph of the human spirit over unimaginable adversity. The Rwanda Suite is composed of 3 thematic rooms, each representing a defining period in the country's history. Colonial times and the era before the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, the aftermath, rebirth, and hope. The exhibition's architecture, a dark, enclosed space, opening outward toward light, reflects the gravity of remembrance while invoking a deeply reflective atmosphere. Within these rooms, visitors encounter lasting consequences of colonial division which fractured Rwandan society, the destructive role of media in spreading hate, the struggle for liberation, justice, reconciliation, and unity. Visitors may explore through a guided tour or navigate independently. Using a mouse or touchscreen, you can walk through the space, click on the floor, images, or text to move directly to areas of interest. Interactive flipbooks and exhibits offer deeper insight. By selecting the information icon, longer text and archival material become accessible. Original video footage and historical newspapers add immediacy, allowing visitors to engage directly with the past at their own pace. Since the end of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, Rwanda has made significant strides towards national unity. Ethnic classifications were removed from national identity cards and official documents. Judicial reforms encouraged reconciliation through processes centered on truth, accountability, forgiveness, and healing. The restoration of the National Itorio, a civic education and cultural program, fostered unity and shared civic national values through initiatives such as the Umunyarwanda, meaning I am Rwanda. Rwandans have chosen to rebuild their nation on the foundation of shared language, culture, values, and centuries of coexistence. Today, Rwandans are challenged to focus forward, building a modern, inclusive, and stronger nation, rooted in unity and dignity. Each story, each image, each testimony, they remind us that the struggle for justice and dignity is ongoing and collective. While today's exploration has focused on Rwanda, this is only the beginning. The African Union is expanding this memorial with 4 additional thematic exhibitions soon to be unveiled. These upcoming exhibitions will explore vital themes such as gender equality, indigenous rights, refugee protection, and youth empowerment, weaving together history, culture, and activism from across the continent. Each will offer a distinct perspective, broadening our understanding of Africa's human rights journey. So stay tuned, keep your eyes and your hearts open. Together, let us honor the past, engage the present, and shape a future where human rights are not mere ideals, but lived realities for all. Join us in this transformative journey. Visit the African Union Virtual Human Rights Memorial today and become part of a movement dedicated to dignity, justice, and lasting change.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We encourage you to use the QR code in your hands to visit the website for more information. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my singular honor to invite His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, to the podium to deliver his statement. Your Excellency.
Excellences, Monsieur le ministre délégué représentant le gouvernement éthiopien, Excellences, Monsieur l'ambassadeur de la République du Rwanda, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les ambassadeurs, Excellences, Madame la vice-présidente de la Commission, Excellences, Monsieur le représentant du secrétaire général des Nations Unies, Mesdames et Messieurs les commissaires, Mesdames et Messieurs, chaque année, le 7 avril, nous nous rassemblons ici pour commémorer le génocide des Tutsis au Rwanda. Un moment de souvenir et de méditation, un rappel aussi à nos consciences des terribles événements qui ont coûté la vie à 1 million de personnes. L'histoire est écrite, le pourquoi, le comment et la manière, nous les connaissons tous. Certes, depuis lors, le Rwanda a réussi à surmonter cette épreuve inhumaine. Le Rwanda a transformé ce traumatisme en un formidable tremplin. Il a su guérir les blessures et les fractures sociétales. Il a redonné espoir et confiance à son peuple. L'architecte de ce renouveau est son Excellence M. Paul Kagame, président de la République du Rwanda. Aujourd'hui, le Rwanda est cité comme exemple. Son développement a été bâti sur les cendres de cette épuration ethnique. Évidemment qu'il a été difficile de rétablir la cohésion et la fraternité dans cette nation meurtrie. Grâce à son leadership visionnaire et la détermination de son peuple, le Rwanda a émergé. Le Rwanda a vaincu les vieux démons de la haine, de l'exclusion. Cependant, la vigilance reste de rigueur. Certains exécutants de ce crime odieux restent à l'affût. L'Union africaine a adopté un instrument juridique pour la prévention contre le crime de génocide. Par ailleurs, j'ai reconduit dans ses fonctions mon envoyé spécial, en la personne de l'ambassadeur Adama Dieng. Au vu des crises qui sévissent sur notre continent, des conflits ouverts, des tensions communautaires, nous devons rester vigilants, rester à l'écoute, agir avant qu'il ne soit trop tard. C'est tout l'objet de la réforme que nous conduisons afin de fusionner les architectures de paix et celles de la gouvernance. Il y a une obligation impérieuse.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic and the First Lady. Dear parents representing the families of the survivors of the genocide against Tutsis, dear Rwandans and friends of Rwanda, good morning. My name is Gatesi Eden. I'll be the Master of Ceremony. Welcome to Kigali Genocide Memorial, where we launch the 32nd edition of the commemorations of the genocide against Tutsis. More than 250,000 Tutsis were buried here at this memorial.
Thank you for joining us as we commemorate and pay respect to more than 1 million lives lost during the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994. Welcome to this memorial site, which is a final resting place to more than 250,000 victims. Nyakubahwa President.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, we'll start with you placing a wreath of flowers on the tomb of the victims of the genocide against Tutsis, followed by lighting the light of remembrance. And the First Lady, please step forward as you pay your respects to the victims of the genocide against Tutsis. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Ambassador Charity Manyeluke, representative of the Diplomatic Corps, may we invite you to step forward and pay your respect.
Next is the president of Iwoka, Professor Gakwenzire Philbert, and Madame Manzi Mukarugema Alphonsine, president of Avega. Please step forward. Thank you. Now we're going to take a minute . Your Excellency, the President of the Republic and the First Lady, it's time to light the light of the flame of remembrance.
Nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika.
Your Excellency, this place where we're going to light the flame of remembrance, a sign of hope and resilience of the Rwandans over the last 32 years.
Twabasaba mukegera.
Please step forward. This is light, light of remembrance, the light of life. Thank you. Now we're going. Let's welcome the President of the Republic and the First Lady. Thank you. Your Excellency, the First Lady, honorable dignitaries, dear Rwandans and friends of Rwanda, good morning. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, dear dignitaries gathered here, Rwandans and friends of Rwanda, good morning. Today, April 7th, it's 32 years after the genocide against Tutsis. We commemorate more than 1 million Tutsis who were killed. We remember our loved ones who were killed. And we remember as we rebuild and express our determination to never let this happen again. Let's stand up for a minute of silence. Remembering is an opportunity to reflect on the dark pages of the history of our country. It's an opportunity to tell history and strengthen our unity and to decide that this should never happen again. Your Excellency, allow me to welcome the Minister of Unity and Civic Engagement, Dr. Bizimana Jean Damascene, for his presentation.
Your
Excellency, the President of the Republic, I thank you for this opportunity, and I will reiterate the international community's decisions, including that of 23 December 2003 and that of 26 January 2018, that say that every 7th of April annually is the International Day of the reflection on the genocide against Tutsis in Rwanda in 1994 around the world. Reflecting on the genocide against Tutsis that was stopped by the RPF in Inkotanyi should tell the countries that they have the responsibility to prevent and stopping the genocide as it was decided on the 9th December 1948 by the United Nations. In Rwanda, between 1990 and 1994, genocide was planned and was executed, and the international community saw it, but the decisions taken are not honored yet. The UN set up the Ingvar Carlsson Commission, which produced its report on December 15, 1999. And pointed out the failures by the United Nations in Rwanda. It stated like this: the UN played a role in not preventing genocide in Rwanda. Genocide was executed in broad daylight. The member states decided to not have any political will and purposely refused to do anything to stop it. The African Union set up Ketumire Masire Commission, which produced a report on July 7, 2000, and acknowledged the following: genocide in Rwanda was preventable if the international community leaders who had the responsibility to stop it had used their resources, but they lacked the political will. The world failed Rwanda. Some countries apologize. On March 25, 1998, President Bill Clinton and the United States visited Rwanda and admitted their responsibility like this: during the genocide against Tutsis in 1994 in Rwanda, many countries looked the other way until after the genocide, some people and organizations expressed their shame for not having done anything to prevent it. On April 7, 2000, Belgium's Prime Minister Guy Verhofstadt apologized to Rwandans for his country's failures. In France, the Duclerc Commission, set up by President Macron on April 5, 2019, issued a report on 26 March 2021, clarifying that country's failures with regards to the genocide against Tutsis in Rwanda. And since 1990, there was evidence of the planning of the genocide against Tutsis, but it was ignored. The government of Rwanda launched anti-Tutsi propaganda, saying that the Tutsi was public enemy and the Inkotanyi were the Rwanda's enemy. And they were accused of plotting to exterminate the Hutus. This was intended to encourage Hutus for self-defense. And the media, government-led media, propagated that propaganda as well. Imvaho number 868 said it like this: all Rwandans know that the country has been attacked by the enemy, and those enemy of Rwanda came from Uganda with the intent to exterminate us and to take away the benefits from our 1959 revolution. The war, our war against the enemy from Uganda is not over, because the enemy is still on our soil. We have to defeat him and send him where he came from. France's embassy in Rwanda produced a report on Rwanda's plan and acts of exterminating Tutsis. In its report of October 15, 1990, it said this: the Hutu civilians were prepared by MRND and they have increased attacks to kill Tutsis, starting in Kibirira area, and there is evidence that this killing will spread across the country. The only Tutsis that the only thing that Tutsis think could stop this is RPF's victory, and this is impossible. In 1991, General Varey, who was in charge of military cooperation in France, visited Rwanda and met the Colonel Rwagafirita, who were in charge of the police. And that colonel said this: the Tutsis are the minority. We will exterminate them. The gendarme, which is the police, together with the military, will put an end to the Tutsi issue. The women, children, and old people all over the country. And this will take a very short time because they are very few. General Varey produced a report about this, and recently he wrote a book about that. Georges Martre, who was France's ambassador in Rwanda from 1989 to 1993, explained to France's parliament about the planning of the genocide. He said in 1990, it was obvious that there was going to be a genocide. Colonel Serubuga, who was the deputy chief of staff of the Rwandan army, he said he was delighted by the RPF attack because for him, this was a good pretext to kill Tutsis. In fact, Tutsis always feared they would be exterminated. Serubuga supported the genocide plan, and he traveled with Habyarimana's advisor, Leon Mugesera, in Ngororero, inciting people to kill Tutsis. This was November 22nd, 1992. Mugesera said this: there are Inyenzis, people who sent their young men and women to join the RPF fighters. Why don't we exterminate those parents? We need to get up and work. Work, Your Excellency, meant killing. And that is the very term President Sindi Kubwabo used on 19th April 1994, inciting people for genocide where he came from in Butare. The genocidal plan originated from President Habyarimana himself. It started with his coming to power. His first political program of August 1st, 1973 said that the governance of the country will be based on ethnicity and regions. So he didn't care about Rwandans' unity. From April 16th to May 6th, 1976, he toured the country, all provinces. The president's office produced a book about this and about the unity of Rwandans. Habyarimana said, when it comes to the unity among Hutus and Tutsis, those Tutsis are provoking the Hutus. They should know that in case of unrest, they would be the ones to suffer. Because he said the Hutus are the majority, power belongs to them. On April 28, 1991, Habyarimana, chairing the ruling party's Congress, reiterated the fact that he didn't care about the unity, but the unity of his own ethnic group. He said, unity is impossible if the unity of the majority is not achieved. And that unity is the true weapon to annihilate the enemy. He says, like the Tutsi has no support in the region, so it's important that the majority understands they should be united. Otherwise, it will be enslaved again. Habyarimana supported the extremist party CDR, which was created in his own office in Urugwiro on February 22nd, 1992. There was a communique against the unity of Rwandans. It said this: unity between Hutus and Tutsis is impossible. Tutsis have their own problems. Hutus must create their own political parties to find solutions to the problems facing Hutus. And that's why this General Assembly have decided to create the CDR party. Habyarimana and his party did not support the negotiations with the RPF. Even though he sent his envoys to Arusha, he always opposed the decisions. He undermined his own Foreign Affairs Ministry. On November 5th, 1992, the MRND issued a communique condemning the negotiations. Habyarimana repeated this on November 15th, 1992, in a political rally in Ruhengeri, when he was calling Minister Ngurinzira names, saying, "What is he masquerading with, touting a piece of paper? What kind of peace is that? When the time comes, I will call on my Interahamwe militia and we will get going." That's when Habyarimana called himself untouchable. Then he says he would prevail against criminals and traitors. Criminals, he meant Tutsis, and by traitors, he meant Hutus who were fighting for peace. The government's media was used to turn the opinion against the RPF and against the negotiations. Imvaho number 866 wrote this: "You can't negotiate with people who are shooting at you. These enemies of Rwanda must silence their weapons and go back where they came from. Otherwise, Rwanda's army will push them back by force, bravely, as they've always done from the beginning, and they've proved to be capable of that." Habyarimana supported the creation of RTLM radio, which shared resources with Radio Rwanda. They gave RTM the technicians, good technicians, and good journalists who were instrumental in hatred-based messaging. The RTLM was connected to the power generator in the president's office, and Habyarimana is the one who had the most shares in that radio. Habyarimana also started military training for Interahamwe militia in Gabiro. It was in a report dated September 29th, 1991, by Colonel Nsabimana, who was head of the military in Mutara. He said that 1,760 weapons were distributed in 4 communes in Byumba, Muhura, Ngarama, Bwisige, Muvumba, and this was continued. And November 5th, 1993, UNAMIR issued a communique saying that, a report saying that Habyarimana chaired a meeting at Rebero Hotel and said that they've been distributing grenades, machetes among Interahamwe and Imhuza Mugambi militias. December 6, 1990, Habyarimana, visiting his army in Gabiro, promised them to avenge their friends who fell on the battleground. Many newspapers, including Kangura, Nyiramachibiri, Zirikana, used this statement to call for extermination of Tutsis.
Issue number 6 of Zirikana wrote as following: "No military man should fight while the accomplices are behind him. We should be ready to exterminate all the accomplices. After that, go after the Inyenzi." Colonel Rwagafirita was the owner of that newspaper, Zirikana. On the 4th of December 1991, Habyarimana created a commission of 10 senior officers headed by Colonel Baragisora, and this commission was to study how to defeat the enemy. The report said that the enemy of Rwanda was the Tutsi. Then there was a report by Colonel Nsabimana of 21st September 1992, and he said that this report should be disseminated in all military camps, and the soldiers should be sensitized to this. And on the 27th of July 1992, Colonel Anatole Sengi-Yumva, head of military intelligence, wrote to Habyarimana that the army was ready to exterminate the Tutsis, nor others who would support them. You understand clearly that the intent within the national forces was to exterminate the Tutsis. The killing of the president of Burundi in Dadaye became an excuse to create factions called Hutu Power, factions of extremists, on the 23rd of October 1993. The national media and others affiliated to them spread the hate. Ijambo, issue 62, said the following: the Tutsis should be gathered together, bombs should be thrown at them, they should be burnt as they did to the Hutus. Take the number of the Hutus who were killed in Burundi, multiply that by 2, and kill the Tutsis in that number. It is when the Tutsis will be cut into pieces and thrown into a Akanyero River that they will recognize that Hutus are also human beings. Lieutenant Colonel Jacques Albert, who was advisor to the army, explained to the prosecution in Belgium that genocide was a plan of the Rwandan armed forces. He did that on the 5th of May 1994. He said this: I was invited to the home of General Sabimana with the ambassador of Belgium. We found there Augustin Bizimana, the head of Minister of Defense, and President Habyarimana. Minister Bizimana told me that he was ready to send the military to complete the work. 10 days before the shooting down of the airplane, that was the last Friday of March 1994, my colleague Colonel Venser invited Colonel General Sabimana and Colonel Kabiligi. Those senior officers reiterated that the peace accord was not going to be put into practice, and that if it was imposed on them, they were going to exterminate the RPF, and that this would not take them more than 15 days. He said they meant what they were saying. Mr. President, warning signs that the genocide was being prepared were many, and they were ignored. Even today, the Congolese refugees who have been 33 years in exile are being enrolled. They have been expelled by FDLR and those who constitute armed groups that came from Rwanda. But the UN has taken many resolutions saying that FDLR is a terrorist organization that had to be disbanded. Resolution 1804 said the following: deploring the persistent violation against human rights and international law by the FDLR, ex-FAR, Interahamwe, and other armed groups in the Eastern DRC, we demand that they lay down their arms immediately and unconditionally, and that they be sent to their country of origin. We call upon all the countries who are members of the United Nations to take all necessary measures to stop monetary and material support that is being given by their citizens or given on their territory towards FDLR, ex-FAR, and Interahamwe and other armed groups from Rwanda and present on the territory of the Democratic Republic of Congo, whether that is done for them or in their interest. All this was done intentionally. What FDLR is doing, that while MONUSCO is watching, just as it was happening while UNAMIR was watching. The leaders of Congo are continuing to call for hate like that was being done in, between 1990 and 1994. In August 98, Minister Yerodi Abdullah Ndombasi of Congo, who was the foreign minister, said that the Tutsis were vermin that had to be eradicated. On the 19th of July 2023, MP Justin Batakwira said that Tutsi are intrinsically killers. On the 31st of May 2024, the head of the Mai Mai group, Benoit Mokombatia, said that a true Tutsi is a killed Tutsi. A true Tutsi is one taken to the cemetery. On the 4th of July 2024, Minister of Information Patrick Muyaya on Tele 50 in Bukavu said the Tutsis were killers, saying the following: the Prime Minister has visited you. She visited you as a lady, as a parent, as a sister. In the country, in the part of the country where women suffered considerably under the killings committed by the enemies who are Tutsis for 30 years. On the 24th of November 2024, Minister Constant Mutamba said that the Tutsis should be killed in Gomba, starting by the leaders of Rwanda. On the 28th of December 2025, the Speaker of the Army in Congo, General Ekenge, said on national television that Tutsis said horrible things about Tutsi women on national television. Even some UN experts in Congo show some bias. In February 1999, Roberto Garreton said concerning the Tutsis that there is an inflexibility of the UN because of the violence committed in Congo by a group of Tutsis. Your Excellency, the President, as I conclude, there is no end to a number of actions being committed by Congo against the Tutsis. The Rwandans are thankful to you for the security and for the measures you take to protect them. Those that you saved in 1994 regained their hope for life, and there's comprise some who survived the previous genocides between 1959 and 1994. The youth, thank you for giving them an opportunity to live in a country without discrimination. Many of those who perpetrated genocide are completing their sentences, and they thank you for the assistance they got in the different prisons and the chance of rejoining the community. Some of those who leave armed groups come back and they are thankful for being able to go home. Many people living in foreign countries are spreading genocide ideology, but when they come home, they abandon the ideology and they come back to their country, and they thank you for the good governance which enables them to come back to their country and to be proud for their country. We remember, as we fight against anything that would destroy Rwanda, there have been horrible things. Never again will we allow anything to destroy Rwanda on our watch. There has been turmoil and machete. Today there is peace and Munyarwanda. Only the latter will survive. We thank you.
We thank the Minister for his presentation. We've learned a lot, which helps us to better understand the history of our country. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, allow me to welcome one of the genocide survivors, Mr. Ngironsanga Theonest. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic and the First Lady, I thank you for this opportunity so I can share my journey of pain and the ordeal I had to suffer in 1994. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Gironsanga Theonest. I was born in the former Kyangugu prefecture in Gafunzo commune, Shangi sector, in Gasharu cell. Today, those areas are called Shangi, Nyamasheke district in the western province. Your Excellency, a little before the genocide, Tutsi families, including mine, where I come from, we lived on fear more than anything. That was the situation. It was really bad. In 1964, my grandpa, Muvugabegui, was killed. And he was thrown in Kivu, Lake Kivu. And a little before the genocide, my father's cousins who lived in Mururu, when the CDR president died, their houses were destroyed and they fled in Kyangu Cathedral. And we were in schools and we were persecuted. Schoolmates would persecute us. The teachers too. They said, your king has attacked the country, but you will pay the price. So we lived in fear. We knew, we could feel that something bad was being in the works. So the trigger became Habyarimana's death. And it all started on April 7th, 1994. We woke up and we could listen to the radio, and we heard that Habyarimana was killed, was dead. My father was a teacher. He called his brothers and sisters, and he said, the only thing that comes next is our death, so let's flee. So he said, we're going to spread. We're not going together. So I'm the one who left with my father, with my elder brother. So he headed to Mokoma, where he taught school. So we went, and on the 9th, we were at ADPR church. All Tutsis from the area were gathered there. And upon our arrival, the church leaders came and kicked us out. They said, we don't want Tutsi blood to be shed inside their church. He said, you should go and find somewhere to go on those hills. So my father looked me in the eyes, and today I understand because I have kids too. He said goodbye. Go to your aunt who was in that area in Mukoma. So I left. When I looked back at him, he raised his hand and waved goodbye. We never saw him again. We went to our aunt, and we noticed that their house had been destroyed. The main house had been destroyed. We spent the night in their small house, in the kitchen, with my cousins. The next day, Nerahamwe found us and took us to where they had gathered women and children. And the men had been running all around. On the 12th, there was what we called kadode. And people who were saying that Tutsis should go to the sector's office so we can guarantee their security. All the men who went to the sector were killed there. A certain Bahati Enoch was killed there. They even they roasted his heart and eat it because they said his smarts were going to be put to good use. So they poured gas oil and they burnt the house down and they killed everybody. So we kept living in fear. We left the area, went to the Adventist church on the top of the mountain. We spent the day there, and then the Interahamwe militia came and told the women, of course, that those who had survived by then were mostly women. He said, well, you come and we're going to give you food for your children. But there was no food. It was a strategy to bring people together and identify young boys so that they can be killed. That's what they did. They took us out of the house because I thought I was a kid. I was 14. I thought there was food we're going to eat. So I said, let me go and eat. So we queued the line and they selected the boys. We were about 120 boys. The girls were taken back to their moms, but they macheted all of us, the boys. An Interahamwe guy called Gasota would bring a kid and lay them down on top of a tree and then cut their neck. So I was on that line. And I told Death, I had a conversation with Death, and I said, look, Death, is this how you're going to take me? And Death just ignored me. And what I did is this. I stayed there when Gasota was still killing people. He raised his head and then he saw me wiping his sweat on his head, and he said, you come here and then show me where your dad is hiding first. So he kept macheting others. The other killer went to him and he told him something, but he came and took me by hand and he said, well, you are Teacher Kajeruka's son. You should leave this place, go back to Shangi. It's really bad here in Mukoma. That's what happened. I kept hiding. It was a rainy season like today. I kept hiding in the fields, and in the evening I went back to the church and I found my two brothers, and together we went back home on our the place where we were born in Shangi. But even traveling was really risky. There were patrols day and night. It was very difficult to go from place to place. But we did that from Mukoma to Shangi. It's a 30-minute walk, but it took 2 nights and a day to make it there. And then we emerged in Gafuba Cemetery and we spent the night there. You needed to walk carefully, cautiously. If you heard voices, you would hide. And we arrived in Shangi at dawn, and I went to see my godfather, and I knocked on the door, and his wife opened the door. And then when she saw me, she cried a lot. Parents' tears. She said, we had been told that you've been killed, but you see, I can't hide here. But even your godfather, if he found you here, he would kill you himself. So she hid me somewhere in the fields. There were 2 paths, and I stayed there. And then I realized I was going to be killed there, so I decided to leave. So we entered the white man's forest. It's a place where the first Germans settled in Shangi. It's on Kivu Lake's shores. So then we ran, and we saw a kid who knew us. And then he screamed. He says, there go the Tutsis, Kajeruka's sons. So Interahamwe militia came running behind us. So when we entered the forest, they were running after us. So we arrived where there was a pile of grass, and we went inside. They searched for us in that forest for about 2 hours. Then they left. But they burnt down that pile of grass in which we were hiding. And then we suffocated, but God protected us. But you see, when it's in a rainy season like this, it was wet, so we did not burn. So we left that hiding place in the evening. But my godmother said people are seeking refuge in Shangi Church. That's where we went with my brothers. So we didn't hide anymore. We just took the road and we headed for Shangi Church. And right before we arrived, there was a roadblock run by another teacher. They were drinking beer, and they had lists reading the names of the dead, those who are still alive. You know, genocide had been planned. You can't deny it.
They told Bona, we just found the children of your colleague Emmanuel. He said, keep them, I'll kill them in the morning. And I asked him, I've been running. And am I going to die here after all this time that I have survived? The Tutsi had brought some cows to the parish, and they would go, the killers would go and take those cows. And in the morning, that's what they did. They probably forgot that they had asked us to remain there. They ran to take the cows and forgot us, and they ran. And we also ran towards the church. We were passing through the fields and not through a conventional path. The gendarmes stopped us. Their role was not to protect people, but to control them. And the killers also, who had run for the cows, also came. And they came there, found us lying on the ground, because the gendarmes had asked us to lie on the ground. They wanted to kill us, and Faustin said, no, these kids came running, they reached us, allow them to go into the church, they'll die together with the rest of the group. When we arrived in Shangi, we found a big crowd. For those who know the area, there is a secondary school, there is an old church, there is a new church, there is an open place. There are many Tutsis. At the memorial, we have more than 13,000 bodies in the memorial, to give you an idea of how many people were there. There were men with wounds, women, children, nothing to eat, nothing to cover oneself against the cold. People were just mourning and screaming. But I found my mother and my sisters. We informed them that my father had been killed at Rukoma, because we came to know that he had been killed there. And the bishop came and took away the priest. We remained in the parish. There was one priest called Mata Yekomatus. He was the only one. He was working with Interahamwe. Now he's in prison. He used to bring Interahamwe to come and choose the women to go and rape. He would pick some individuals to go and kill. That's how we live with that priest in that church. Every day we would fight with Interahamwe. They would come and kill 100 people, come the next day, do the same, different attackers. But we tried to defend ourselves using stones, using pieces of wood, anything we could get our hands on. When they realized that the genocide couldn't happen as fast as they wished, the sous-prefet Munyengabe Theodore from our area came to organize a meeting. And he said that the Interahamwe keep coming because we are resisting. He said, if we don't resist, they will not come back. He chose some people, including 50 businessmen. He took them in a vehicle, took them to the stadium in Cyangugu. We remained confused, without a leader, without knowing anything to do. They took all the weapons, even traditional ones. Even a baton was taken. The following day, an attack came, and more than 200 people were killed. But then there was really a massive attack. One Interahamwe from Bugarama called Yusuf came with Interahamwe on board buses, about 6 buses. Those Interahamwe were armed with traditional weapons and guns. They were killing without any mercy. They killed people throughout the whole evening. Actually, that's the day when, in my area, in Shangi, we organized the memorial evening. People screamed, people cried, people were killed like cattle in an abattoir. They used clubs whose heads were encrusted with nails. Some of us who didn't die that evening were only saved by a brother who was an electrician. He went and switched off the power, and then they were unable to know who to kill and who not to kill. I personally survived in the church. I was on the altar. People fell on top of me. Those who fell on top of me were all killed. You would push a body and find that they have no head. I can't tell you how much blood I drank. I was pulled, and when I was pulled, the skin of my legs was peeled off. I went and hid in a cupboard, and again, in the morning at 5 a.m., the Interahamwe came and killed those who had survived until 8. Then it was announced that the killing should stop so that the bodies could be buried. So they took a break. They stopped people going to the market to come and help dispose of the bodies. They were saying that they were taking people to the Red Cross. There was a huge pit that was used for composting at the school. And they were telling us it's the Red Cross that was treating people. They were saying, even those with a small wound, please come, you'll get treated by the Red Cross. Look, I'm a survivor. I was also taken to that pit. I was taken from the cupboard to somewhere on the side of the church. I sat with some women, and as they were carrying those bodies, they came back to me, and they said, "Search whether there are no boys among those women." They found me with 8 others. They took off our clothes, and they asked Kamanutse, a young man who was in the same school as me. He had a spear. They asked him, "Have you ever killed someone?" He said, "No." They said, "Take this one, take him to the pit. Once you get there, pierce him with your spear and throw him into the pit." So he took me. I witnessed at that moment how a young boy was taken from the back of the mother, and he was hit on the wall, and the brain was shattered. They asked me to go and bury that child. So as Kamanutse was carrying me and taking me, I asked him, "Kamanutse, I was with you in school. Are you going really to kill me?" He said, "You will die. I'll kill you because you Tutsis are meant to die." When we arrived at that pit, the things I saw are incredible. Somebody could be in the process of being killed by 20 people. Machetes, spears, some people were thrown into that pit in different positions, those who are living, those who are dead already. When that kid arrived with me there, he was also confused. I was very tired and my legs could hardly carry me, but when that boy got confused, I ran away. Then I was asked, I was caught again. They asked me where I'm going, 2 men. They asked me, "Where are you going?" I said, "There is a body of an old lady. I'm going to bury that body." they took me by the two hands and threw me towards those ladies. The ladies said, "This boy is going to get us killed. What are you coming to do again?" Fortunately, my uncle's wife took one piece of cloth and covered my body. And he said, "Let this young man, he has dodged death so many times, let him stay here. And if he has to die, he will die here." At that time, the whistle was blown and a pause was declared. So the killing stopped that day. But Interahamwes came to look for women to rape and to carry. One Interahamwe told me that I would be taken to his home and I would be taking care of his children. And remembering that I was a boy and he didn't realize that, I thought to myself that that was my last day. My younger sister was there. She had also survived, not even a wound to her. And I asked that lady, "Please, can you ask this man to take my sister rather than took her. She really was the babysitter for their children. She would carry them on the back, but they were merciful to her. They did not kill her. She's alive and she has now her own children. I remained in that place until 90. You understand, more than 15,000 people had died there. Women and a few little boys. We were really a handful surviving. The majority of people had already been killed. We remained there, nothing to drink, nothing to eat, no medicine for those who are wounded. Some Catholic sisters would come and try to treat people. Can you imagine, even the water pipes were disconnected, so we couldn't have water. So after the rain, we would go and drink water from water patches on the ground. We lived there in a very difficult situation with that priest called Matejiko, who up to this day does not admit his guilt. He would always pick people, give away people to be killed, until the day when all the Tutsis were gathered together and taken to Nyarushishi. The purpose was not to save us. We were taken to Nyarushishi in order to kill us more easily. Actually, they were saying that after burying Habyarimana, they were going to bury us on top of his body. Nyarushishi is a hill without a house. There was no water. It's a very cold hill, desolate. And those from the stadium, Mibirizi, Shangi, Kibuye, and even those from Butare had been brought to Nyarushishi. Turquoise area actually made the genocide to be prolonged. The Interahamwe killed people. Anyone who survived in that area is a survivor. Bagambiki and his friends were expert killers. They killed quietly. They had all the time. They killed children, old people. And the protection that Turquoise was supposed to bring became actually for us a big problem. The UNHCR, the Red Cross had erected a few tents, and that way we would sleep. We were supposed to die on the 6th. The Interahamwe came from all the prefectures of all the communes of Cyangugu. They arrived there, and by chance, Bavugamenshi, who was a lieutenant colonel, head of gendarmerie, came and spent the whole day looking after us from morning until 3. And we were waiting to be killed. We would see how the Interahamwe had surrounded us. And he came as a military expert, he managed to keep at bay those Interahamwe. And around 3-4 p.m., the French were there with their four-wheel drives, with the helicopters, with the media. And we thought that was the day for us to be saved. The French came, took young girls, raped them. The French did nothing. They changed nothing. The Interahamwe could still come and pass by the French and pick the victims to go and kill. We remained there without any defense, without knowing what would happen. But God never allows that his people die to the last. Towards August, we, as survivors, we saw the Nkotanyi arrive. It was hard for us to believe. We were overjoyed. That image never leaves me. A small Hilux pickup arrived, and on top of it, at the back, there were soldiers who were sitting in it back to back. And they came and told us, anyone who has survived to this day will not die. So we survived. We embraced life. Many were wounded physically, psychologically, but when the Nkotanyi came, at least we were relieved. We thought that we knew that we are going now to survive in a country without the discrimination that had become a plague. That's why I thank the Nkotanyi. The Nkotanyi led by the President of the Republic. I'd like to tell you, thank you very much. This is our history. When I say thank you, understand it in the sense of our history. I thank you on my own behalf and in the name of those who survived in my company. We say thank you once again. Without the Nkotanyi, today my body would be in the memorial. You would be remembering me as we remember the others who died. We survived in a country of hope, in the country that led us in our fight for survival and for rebuilding our lives. We went back to school. I was very bright in school, but for people of my ethnic group, it was hard to go to secondary. But after the genocide, I was able to study. I went to secondary, then I went to university. Today I have children. When they are bright, they study without anyone preventing them to do so. Today I have a house, I have a wife. My siblings are now married. We have children for whom I have two different relationships. I am their grandfather and I am their father, I'm their uncle. I have all kinds of funny relationships with my relatives. When we say these things, we are not trying to spread hate. We want the children to understand. When we say never again, we want our children to understand what it means. When we say we are against the genocide ideology and anything related to it, we want our children to understand that. Children, this country is ours. We should not understand or hear what those who are against us are saying. We should hear those who are supporting us. We and our children and our grandchildren should continue to live in a peaceful and prosperous country as it is today under the leadership of while building our lives.
For sharing your testimony. And we also thank you for being this resilient. And today you are partnering with other Rwandans to rebuild our country. Right now we're going to listen to Nyundo School of Music.
Abatutsi bicurwa agashinyaguro turibuka ya minsi y'imibabaro ubwo abatutsi bagwaga mu biganza by'umwanzi amarira agahinda bikwira u Rwanda Rwanda wowe washe
We thank Nyundo School of Music for that song. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, those gathered here and those following around the country and beyond are waiting for your remarks today. I'd like to let me start with a comment on the testimony and Minister Bizimana's presentation. That we've heard a long testimony with a powerful testimony by Theonest, and all that we've heard is rooted somewhere. And it's rooted in the truth. There are people who deny it one way or another, so they have a difficult job if you're trying to distort such a history of a people, and you try to distort it as you want, whether inside the country or outside. Most especially those are the ones who are trying to distort that our history are outside of our country, and they do it for different reasons. And they will have to face certain things as they try to distort such a history. But what I can say, given what Theonest just said, you know, times do change, and times have changed. No one will be killed again, like Theonest has said, like those who were killed, those he saw being killed. Or no one will be killed like him, because he actually was killed, but he came back to life. But this won't happen again. And the reason is this. And one of the reasons is this: you can't kill the same person twice. If you try that, you will be killed before the person you intend to kill be killed. You see us here, and those people who are saying nonsense from outside of the country. This whole country of Rwanda that you see here cannot be killed twice. Before you kill Rwanda, Rwanda will kill you. You can't kill the same people twice. Impossible. We cannot be killed twice. whether those of us who are older or our children, no one will kill you twice. Impossible. It can't happen. We will live just like normal people, human beings should live. At all costs. This is not something we beg of anyone. I'm saying it, and some people will misinterpret this, but this is the way I put it. Take it from me. So I want to ask you to allow me to continue my remarks in a language that some of the guests here understand without requiring interpretation, or in a language where many more outside and who have a role in our history, including those who are distorting our history in a language that they can understand without going through interpretation. So please bear with me.
Today, we gather again in remembrance to everyone present and watching online. Thank you for joining us on this important day. We deeply appreciate the friends who join us every year in person or in spirit without fail. I thank this survivor who has just spoken. These testimonies keep memory alive for all of us and for those who will follow us. Kwibuka carries profound meaning for our nation. It is how we confront and overcome the divisions that nearly destroyed us. This day empowers us all. We draw on the strength of survivors who provide the reservoir of humanity that feeds our nation's soul. To all survivors, know that you are not alone. We stand with you always. Everything we have achieved was only possible because all Rwandans decided to join hands in a common purpose. We honor the role played by every Rwandan in our country's rebirth. The reality of the genocide is clear for all to see. The ringleaders were convicted in international courts with rigorous evidence. The Gacaca process documented the course of the genocide in every single village and neighborhood in Rwanda. Over 50 million handwritten pages were produced during the 10 years of Gacaca. Right here, where we are standing, 250,000 victims of the genocide are laid to rest. And in 2018, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution that called the genocide against the Tutsi by its proper name, with the support of every member state but one. The truth is undeniable, and yet we still find people sowing doubt and twisting the facts up to today. This is not just a matter of ignorance, but something much deeper. It means that the risk of seeing history repeat itself is a constant danger if we allow ourselves and our friends to become indifferent. Genocide denial begins long before the genocide itself is committed. There is a pattern of looking away from the warning signs or taking them lightly. Hate speech turns into hate acts, dismissed as expressions of popular discontent. Behavior that should be immediately condemned is rationalized and minimized. The preparations are masked by narratives of popular grievance and fear. In the process, a moral equivalence is created between the targets of the genocide and the planners of it. All of these elements were present in our own story. There are some who pretend that the genocide against the Tutsi was a spontaneous event. That's not true. It was carefully prepared and carried out in plain sight. Regrettably, some who spoke the truth at the time, and who were even eyewitnesses, later became peddlers of distortion, mainly for political reasons. Militias were openly trained and indoctrinated in hate. Weapons were imported in large quantities, and Rwandans who opposed it were threatened or killed. Before 1994, communities were subjected to waves of smaller massacres meant to normalize the killing and also to measure the reaction of the wider world. And with only a few heroic exceptions, the world was unconcerned until it was too late. In the early 1960s, after countless Tutsis were killed or forced into exile, international voices such as Bertrand Russell, to name just one, described it as systematic extermination. The pattern continued in the 1980s and early 1990s, when Tutsi communities such as the Bagogwe in the Northwest were targeted in organized attacks. In 1993, a commission led by Jean Crabonnier investigated these atrocities. After documenting mass graves and the involvement of state authorities, they concluded that a genocide was being prepared. In the same year, the UN Special Rapporteur, Bakri Weli Ndiaye, warned that organized propaganda portraying the Tutsis as enemies was spreading openly, helping prepare the population for mass violence. In January 1994, the command of the United Nations mission in Rwanda sent a fax back to headquarters in New York with detailed intelligence that in Interahamwe were stockpiling weapons and compiling lists of Tutsis to be killed. He was then ordered to share the information with the very government which was preparing the genocide and to take no further action. And sadly, the reaction today is no different here in our region. And we can see it right before our eyes. When the genocide began, the nature of it is obvious. All Tutsi were targeted because of their identity. Nowhere was safe, including churches and schools. That horrific reality only underscores the humanity and the courage of the Rwandans who took risk to provide hiding places for their fellow citizens. The reaction of the international community was to evacuate foreigners and withdraw most peacekeepers. At Eto, Kichichiro, when the peacekeepers withdrew thousands of desperate Tutsi were left to die. Such scenes were repeated across the country. If these forces had instead been supported to protect Rwandans, the killers could have been deterred and many people would still be alive. The lives saved by the United Nations peacekeepers who were allowed to remain makes clear how much more could have been done with the political will. Even as the killings accelerated, the language used to describe what was happening itself became a matter of calculation. Genocide is defined in international law precisely to create an obligation to act. To witness such a crime and deliberately refuse to use the term is, in effect, genocide denial, perhaps even a form of aiding and abetting. The technology existed that directed the killings. The planes capable of jamming those signals were available. Officials even calculated the hourly cost of the mission. In the end, the operation was deemed to be too expensive and potentially also a violation of Rwanda's sovereignty. So the cost was more it became too expensive. It was more expensive, especially when in their minds, those lives are really worthless. So our lives were worth nothing. That's fine. For Rwandans, the lessons have been brutal. And those lessons have not been forgotten. If our lives do not happen to align with someone else's interests, they are not worth saving. That's fine. And so it had to be the Rwandan Patriotic Army that led the campaign against the genocide and ended it. Our deepest source of grief was always that we could not arrive earlier. This is a simple truth of history, which many today still have reservations about acknowledging, for reasons we do not and maybe will never understand. The culture and character of today's Rwanda Defense Forces, RIDF, was forged in those dramatic moments. It guides the conduct of our forces who serve abroad excuse me, in peace-building missions, earning universal respect. Indeed, no sanctions or insult from outside can ever tarnish the honor and integrity of Rwanda's defense and security forces, who are among the finest that can be found anywhere. I look forward to raising this matter of sanctions at the highest level to understand the basis for such an injustice. Rwandans understand the cost of tolerating extremism, and our central security principle is to put the protection of civilians first. After the genocide, Rwandans chose to rebuild our country together. With that came a promise to never let the politics of genocide take root ever again. I tell you, genocide cannot happen here again. It won't happen. Even with those noises you hear in the region of people gathering from Europe, from wherever, and meeting in Kinshasa and bringing the son of Habyarimana and relatives and others from wherever and gathering. All of that is just noise. It cannot amount to anything that will happen here of that kind again. It cannot happen. And I'm saying this not just as a person. And I'm just saying it because I know every Rwandan, young and old, is as determined and is saying so, like I'm saying now to you. Along the way, Rwandans faced constant criticism and many attempts to twist our history. But the power we will always have is to use our minds to see the truth, and our voices to speak up when something is not right. You can never silence us in whatever form. We must be clear about the dangers that remain. When the genocidal government collapsed in July 1994, the soldiers and the militia fled across the border into DRC, forcing millions of civilians along with them. Inside the camps, they were organized into what is now known as FDLR and launched a sustained cross-border insurgency against Rwanda, claiming tens of thousands more lives. This was the period known as the Abacengezi insurgency, and the western border was only fully secured by the end of the 1990s through the combined efforts of our army and the brave residents of those areas. And since then, our defensive measures have been aimed at ensuring that such attacks can never again be made across our borders. This is not a problem that should be left to Rwanda alone. Doing so only rewards those behind the threats, while Rwanda is penalized for standing up for itself. Imagine a farmer whose field catches fire. At first, the flames are small. A few neighbors think it does not concern them. Others say the wind will change and the fire will die out on its own. So they watch and wait. But the wind does not change. Meanwhile, a pyromaniac is secretly adding fuel to the fire. So the fire spreads from one field to another, and then into the forest and the towns and beyond. Only then do people run with the buckets of water and call for the establishment of a fire department. Africans, more than most, should understand that the danger of moral passivity in the face of hatred and violent extremism. Should understand that danger, especially in the face of hatred and violent extremism. Africans, more than most, we must be reminded by all this history. Today, our continent accounts for the majority of the world's active conflicts. In 1994, Africa's collective institutions also failed to respond. I say this because the call for African sovereignty, legitimate and necessary as it is, must also mean that African institutions act decisively when Africans are at risk. Bad actors must not be allowed to hide behind the principle of sovereignty, to evade responsibility for abuses or deny citizens their rights. We cannot afford to repeat the mistakes of the past. Genocide ideology is still spreading in our region. Left unchecked, it has the power to take us all backwards again. There are those who claim that Rwanda exaggerates, these concerns, or that we have ulterior motives. This is not only false, it exposes the deep cynicism that led to the tragedy we commemorate today. What sustains Rwanda today is the unity of Rwandans and the convictions that, like all people, we have the right to live in safety and dignity and at peace with all our neighbors. What we ask is for partners to join with us to fight extremism, rather than punishing Rwanda for defending itself. We owe future generations of Rwandans more than survival. They deserve to inherit a secure, united, and bold country and an integrated and confident Africa. We invite you to stand with us in remembrance and also in action. I thank you for your patience and kind attention. Murakoze cyane.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, for those remarks. We thank you for over the last 32 years. You've been leading us and you've been helping us to become a resilient nation. We Rwandans will never die again. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic and the First Lady, honorable dignitaries, Rwandans, friends of Rwanda, we've come to the end of today's function as we launch the commemorations activities as we remember our loved ones killed during their genocide against Tutsis. As we conclude, we also want to let you know that there's a walk to remember that will start at Gasabo district and end at BK Arena for the night vigil. Thank you. Now please stand as the President of the Republic and the First Lady leave the venue.